And wow, were we ever brought back to reality with that huge loss at the hands of Minnesota. This team is still very bad. Hello Habs fans, welcome back to this week's episode of the Habs Fan Forum. I'm Ben Danke, your host, and here at the Habs Fan Forum, this is where us fans get to have our voices heard. And wow, were we ever brought back to reality with that huge loss at the hands of Minnesota after the reality TV show was that was the GM selection of the Montreal Canadiens. We were starkly reminded this team is still very bad. In this week's video, I'm going to round out the last 3 games of this road trip across the U.S. where they faced Colorado, Vegas, and of course Minnesota. And then I'm going to take you through some of my player notes that I've seen over the last 3 games, just some things I've noticed from in-game play. But first, for my fan question of the week, last week I put the spotlight on Mike Hoffman, who I want to see traded, and I ask you what you thought we could get in return for Mike Hoffman. This week, I want to know your thoughts on Tyler Toffoli. I mean, I love Tyler Toffoli. I think he's a great player. Last year, he blew up, but this year, things are different. And he came back. He's playing hot. Do you think they should move Tyler Toffoli? And what do you think they should get in return for him? All right, this last week, the Habs went 0-1-2. They finished out a 7-game road trip. That was just disastrous in terms of actual points and winning, but that's okay. We know this team is in the very bottom of the standings. Anyways, they went 0-1-2, actually squeaking out 2 overtime losses against 2 very good teams, and then coming right back to earth with a shelling by the Minnesota Wild. The first game, another rematch from last year's playoff series against the Vegas Golden Knights, was a great game. They lost 4-3 in overtime. I mean, the Knights beat the Canadiens 4-3 in OT. Was a fun game. The Canadiens got vastly outshot. I'm going to get back to this later. Next, the Habs moved on to face the Avalanche in Colorado. Huge underdogs in this game. On the betting line, it was ridiculous spread. Of course, the Avalanche are a hot, really strong team, top tier, and the Habs, of course, last place in the league, so it kind of makes sense. Also, I think Samuel Montembeault got hurt, and Kane Primo got this start, so they're now rocking a Kane Primo, Michael McNiven combo. Nonetheless, though, this game was actually a pretty great game. It was pretty back and forth. The Habs battled back and tied the game. Sent it to overtime. A goal disallowed that would have put the Habs up 3-1. Kadri ended up being offside, so that got weighed, which was great. Goes to OT, and of course, we know the story. They lose in OT, and another nail biter, but a closer game than I'm sure anyone expected. Then, of course, after riding that high, well, as high as you can get for 2 overtime losses, but at least riding 2 strong games, the Habs go into Minnesota, and well, this game was just a brutal game. Right? They got the first goal, but from then on, it was all Minnesota. It was just they got dominated in an 8-2 loss. A brutal finish. They pulled Primo after 5, put McNiven in the third period, and he didn't do much better. But Primo was letting in some pretty weak goals in that second period, so you could tell he was gassed. All right, before I continue, just a quick word from our sponsors. The Habs Fan Forum is proudly a part of Rocket Sports Media as well as the Hockey Podcast Network and is sponsored by DraftKings. Right now, you can download DraftKings Sportsbook as a first-time user. If you use the promo code THPN and you place down a bet of at least $1, they'll give you $100 free of betting credits as long as one team scores a goal, which we know is pretty much going to happen in this league. And if DraftKings Sportsbook is not available in your state, that's okay. You can still use the promo code THPN on sign up and get some great free cash prizes. All right, let's go into some notes I had from watching the games over the last week. One, Dominique Ducharme had this strategy. He came out on these letting low danger, high volume shots happen. They were outshot like crazy in every game. Vegas had 53 shots. Colorado, I think, had 46. And Minnesota even had 39. And I can't remember the Habs numbers, but they were much lower. So they were letting a lot of these shots happen. I just don't know. Like, it obviously didn't work, so that's one. But, with a goalie like Primo, who's young, or even Samuel Montembeault, who's kind of like a fringe AHL, NHL goalie, it's putting a lot of risk, putting all those shots on. So, obviously it didn't work out, and the goalies were gassed, just tired. So, clearly the strategy didn't quite work this week. I don't know if they're going to tweak it for next week. The fact that Paquette is playing each of these games over, Lucas Vedamo, who showed some great play in that weird bubble time when there were so many players on COVID. Aren't we trying to play our developing players? Why is Paquette playing? I think he should be on waivers. My man Suzuki is looking hot recently. He's warming up with some goals and some assists. He's playing very well with Tyler Toffoli, who returned. So that chemistry came right back to life, which is awesome. One, it can boost Tyler Toffoli's trade value. And two, it's getting a little bit of that Suzuki swagger back, which I love to see. So enjoying that connection. Moving on to some depth players, Leckie and Paling. They are looking noticeable every single game. I love that. I love watching Paling and Leckie. Leckie, and he's already getting some calls from some GMs. I've heard some rumors that they're already calling about him. He's definitely going to be some trade bait coming up to the deadline. An all-around great player. So good to see him get a goal and, warming up recently. Finally, I hear Drouin's hurt, which is one, unfortunate that he's hurt. You never want to see anyone hurt. But two, kind of kills any chances I thought they might have had at trading him. So well, we'll see how that goes. Okay, after going 1-3-3 on this road trip, the Habs are finally back home. So the next week, they got a busy schedule. They have 4 games in front of them. I think they're playing Anaheim, Columbus, Edmonton, and New Jersey. They got 4 games slated, so excited to see these. And that is it for this week's episode of the Habs Fan Forum. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. If you like the video, just like down below. Please share, tell your friends, subscribe, hit that little bell to get some notifications for future videos. You can check out allhabs.net for some amazing content. They have the podcasts up there, of course. They have game previews, game recaps, weekly notes with some amazing content on there if you love reading about the Montreal Canadiens. And of course, you can follow all Habs on Twitter for the best Montreal Canadiens coverage. Thanks again for watching. My name is Ben Danke, and of course, woo! Go Habs, go, baby!